Right, this is Neil from Master Edit. Welcome back to part 2 of how to hook your readers. You can go to Master Edit here. The link is in the description of this video, and you can check out the other free video series on writing there. Also, you can check out Master Edit, which is a great editing software. You can check out here, see Master Edit in action. It's pretty cool. Right, so continue on then. I'm going to go back with the story for a moment here. Right, so where we left off then is the tension is building between these characters, and the writer Octavia is keeping us interested until she actually gets to, you know, how the actual story. So it was actually a great way to start the story. Right, so I didn't say anything else as I'm right here. I had done my bit for non-violence. I said, "What the hell you got in your..." He lunged toward me. I sidestepped him and bashed his stupid head in. I left him lying where he fell, got my purse, and went out. Let Rena or Emma see to him. So we see right away that she's a strong character, and that cool. She's small and skinny, but she's brave, and so we like that, and we're like I wish I was more like that maybe, or we can identify if we are like that. So either way, she captivates the reader that way. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get away from the house. I had a headache, and every now and then I would hear voices, a word, a scream, somebody crying. Hear them inside my head. Doro said that meant that I was close to my change, my transition. Doro said that was good. I wished I could give him some of the pain and the craziness of it and let him see, damn, why am I reading so crappy? And see how good it was. I felt like hell all the time, and he came around grinning. So this is probably where she might have originally, I'm just going to guess here, this might have been where she originally started the story or thought to start the story, was somewhere around this paragraph right here. And it's a great opening, it's a great hook, right? You're wondering, whoa, what's going on? One, you can kind of sympathize her, she has a headache. We've all had headaches before. This is another manipulation, little subtle manipulations like this. You know, she didn't have to have a headache, but bam, her character has a headache. Actually, her character kind of does have to have a headache because what's going on with her in her mind. So, but that's an immediate way. Almost everyone's had a headache, so you can sympathize. And I wish Yahoo didn't pop those things up. I might have to just close it because it's going to be kind of distracting. Anyway, so we can see right away that most everyone's had a headache, and so we can sympathize with the main character. And then she drops a big line, and she gets our attention, and she makes us want to know, whoa, hold on a second, this isn't an ordinary story. It kind of started out ordinary, but right away she's letting you know this story is not ordinary. You want to keep reading. That is, she talks about hearing voices, they're in her head, and she's close to her change. That Doro said that, in other words, hearing these voices in her head somehow meant that she was close to her change, to her transition. So now we know, this is a weird story. This isn't going to be a typical story. And if you know Octavia Butler, she writes a lot of sci-fi and stuff. So we can be in for a pretty wild story, most likely. Anyway, so she gets that across right away from the beginning. Now, the reason why I think she might not have started here is, well, people can sympathize with a headache and everything, but she hasn't got it. It's kind of harder to start the story from this point and say enough about the character, manipulate the reader in the way she did. So the way she started it, she manipulated the reader in so many great ways, starting out that she was reading a book, she was interrupted reading the book, she introduced tension right away, kept you reading until you can at least figure out what happened with that tension, and then she showed that she's a brave woman and got to describe her a little bit during that, what she looks like and stuff in a natural way, and then showed her bravery. And so now you're rooting for her, and because you like, oh, she's brave and cool, and she reads and so forth. She did all that in a short amount of time, and right after the action is, the tension is released, you get this other weird question, and now you want to keep reading. So she also says, hey, I know how to build tension, and so that keeps you interested as well. So it was a great way to open it. And then there's another thing she says that I find really interesting. Another thing she does immediately here about the reading thing, she capitalizes on that again, knowing that obviously the readers can sympathize with reading, I think it's in the next page. She says, let me see here just a second. Right here. And I got a couple of paperbacks, always some books. If I didn't have anything to read, I'd really go crazy. So she builds on the fact that people reading the book are going to be readers and that they're going to identify with that. And so this line right here can even draw you more into the character, make you like her more. You'll notice that that's used a lot, that main characters are avid readers. And, and it's clear why that is, because readers can identify with that, and so they naturally say, hey, I like this character. But these are subtle ways to manipulate a reader into getting them to like your main character. You want them to like your main character. And even if they don't like your main character because he's a bad person, you can write from the point of view of a bad person. You still want them to identify with the main character in some way, in some level, that he's a reader, for example, and that's something they can identify with. And so they kind of like the guy, but they don't like the guy because he's kind of mean, whatever. But he's interesting enough that they keep reading, and they can identify with him enough to keep reading. Okay, so have your character do things the reader can relate to. And so we just seen one of them is reading. So reading is an easy way to manipulate a reader and to get them to relate to the character. Being bullied is another one. If you get a chance, you can go to webook.com. It's actually a really cool kind of community to share your writing and stuff. And I have the first chapter. It's just the rough draft. It's just the first draft, but I haven't got around to editing even the second draft yet. I still have to edit a couple other books before that. But anyway, it's a cool sci-fi story. It's called End of All. So if you go to webook.com and type End of All, so webook.com and type in End of All, you'll see my book on WeBook, and then you could read the first chapter. I only got the first chapter there for the public to read. I have all the chapters in a private thing, and if the right people ask me, and they message me on there, and they say, hey, I want to become a member so I can read the whole thing, I do let some people through, and then they can read the whole thing if they want and comment and tell me what they thought of it, what they didn't like, what they did like, and that will help me in my when I get around to editing it. Right. So anyway, what's important there is that I start out where she is going to zap through a tree. She's a lightning elf, and lightning elves have the ability to transform themselves into lightning. And it's her turn. It starts out with her turn to zap through a tree, an old fruit tree, which are trees with white bark and blue leaves. And so it's her turn to do it, and she's never done it before. She's not good at it. She sucks at her lightning powers, and she gets bullied for it. But she gets bullied also for her ears not being pulled back yet, because when you're a young elf, your ears stick out east and west or left and right. And as you get older, they pull back so they face behind you. And all their ears are pulled back, but hers haven't. So they make fun of her and call her pointy and outy and stuff because of her ears. And so she gets bullied on. She gets picked on right in the beginning of the story, and then she fails. She doesn't zap through the tree, and that's also a plant. Plants are really useful tools to use in screenwriting, writing movies, but they're also very useful when writing novels. And a plant is something you plant there, then later on it has a payoff. So I plant that she failed at this, that she sucks at zapping through the tree. Later on in the story, she has to fight a man-eating tree, tree that eats elves and stuff. And anyway, it's really interesting dynamic that the man-eating trees have with these leaf elves, or not leaf elves, excuse me, nymphs. These nymphs that are spirits, but they're able to show themselves through gathering leaves and making them look like women, the form of a woman, and then they can use their seduction to make you think that what you're seeing is naked women, beautiful naked women, and they lead you to the tree, and then the tree eats you. Anyway, so the point being that when that happens, she finally is able to use her powers, as she's already changed a bit by then, and she zaps through this tree and kills it. And I won't give anything else away. It's just really cool payoff, though. So you want to think about setups and payoffs, and you can do some of your setups right in the very beginning of your story. How much time do I have left? See, I think it was like reading the rest of that story before kind of made me run out of time. So perhaps I shouldn't have read so much in this particular series, but I just thought it was important because as we go through this, it's going to click for you. You're going to remember that beginning of her story and the different things she did right as we go through these different things to do to make a good hook in the beginning of your story. Okay, so come back for part 3. if I haven't bored you already.